Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Jacob Santhouse, and I am a licensed counselor as well as a counselor educator. Now, often the conversation around mental health and counseling is focused very much on the client, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, the conversation I want to start today is actually focused a little bit more on the counselor. Because if counselors are not well supported, chances are they're not going to be able to support their clients very well. And so I think part of the conversation has to be focused on how do we create a system, how do we improve on the system that already exists in order to support counselors well so that they can in turn provide the best counseling services for their clients. To get things started, I want to break down kind of the three main places that counselors tend to work. So the first one I'm going to talk about very briefly is the community agency or organization. Now there's a pretty wide variety of these community agencies out there. And most of these types of agencies will offer a wide variety of services. So they'll have counselors, they'll have psychologists, social workers. I've seen some that offer childcare. It's kind of across the board. You get the idea. So what are some of the benefits of working at a place like this? Well, one of the first benefits is that they often meet a lot of needs in the community. They can offer some very low-fee sliding scale services, and so they bring in a lot of clients and will make a big impact on the community. And building on that, because there's usually such a strong vision, and that's why people choose to work there, it's not uncommon for places like this to develop a community among the staff that kind of support one another, which is fantastic. But as with everywhere that you could work, there's always negatives. In the same way that there's potential for good community, I've also seen quite a few unfortunate examples where the culture of the agency becomes very unhealthy. As much as you'd think mental health professionals would get along well with each other, I hate to say they don't always. It's sad, but it's unfortunately true. In addition to also potentially creating harmful environments to work in, often mental health professionals who work in environments like this are not paid super well. Because most of the time the services they're giving are at a lower cost, the agencies just can't afford to pay them all that much. And finally, kind of building on that, often people who work in agencies like this can get overworked. There's always this idea of you have to take more, there's a need, take more and more and more. And at some point, that kind of burns you out, which isn't great. So these agencies, they have some good sides. They meet real needs. There can be a great sense of community and support, but also there are some downsides. So what's another option? Private practices. Let's talk about private practices. Private practices are often started by individuals who are like, I think I could run this better. And so they go out there and they start one to run it better. And there are some definite advantages to that. When you have a private practice and you have a very specific niche, that will often bring in a lot of clients and it enables you to really focus on something and get really good at it. Another benefit of private practice is that when you work for yourself, if you run it well, you can be very flexible in what you do, which enables you to have really good self-care, take vacations, do whatever you need to do, take care of family. You get the idea. And then finally, I know I keep coming back to money, but the pay in a private practice can make life a lot less stressful because as you're dealing with the things that your clients bring up, things in your own personal life, at least worrying about money is not one of those things. Now, it's important to mention after all those good things that there are some downsides, the negatives of working in private practice. The first is also kind of the money thing, ironically. People who get into mental health don't get into it because they think they're great at business or because they really even think about business. They think about people, which is great, but if you don't run a private practice well, it can actually become more stressful and it makes it very hard to take time off, very hard to do self-care, and you end up being fairly stressed and tied to the company most of the time, which is arguably not super healthy. Another big con of private practice is that when you don't work in an agency or with a lot of other people, it can get really lonely. And that can lead to burning out, that can lead to making unethical decisions that you might not have made if you'd had conversations with people about, hey, is this a bad idea? And it can make long-term sustainable work as a counselor kind of challenging. And then finally, I think one of the hardest parts of private practice is marketing. You can't just go out and hang your sign out there and people will show up. You have to actually work on learning, how do I do this marketing thing? How do I bring clients in? You might be the best counselor in the world, but if people don't know you're there, nobody will come see you. And so having to learn marketing, having to do marketing, that's a big hurdle that people have to jump through in private practice in order to have the whole thing be successful. So, as with agencies, private practice has some serious benefits like getting paid better, more flexibility, but also some setbacks because you have to run a business and it's lonely and you have to learn how to do all these things. So what is the third category of today? Well, the third category is companies like Betterhelp, Talkspace, these online platforms that are major companies that offer counselors the ability to come work for them and see clients without really having to worry about any of the running a business things, without having to go to an actual physical office to do anything. It's very flexible and it seems incredibly straightforward and simple, right? So let's talk about some of the benefits of working for a company like this. I think that one of the main benefits of working for a company like this is that they are marketing machines. I don't know if you've Googled counseling wherever you live, but if you Google counseling, Betterhelp will be on the top page of Google, if not the top result, and they'll almost definitely be the top paid result, the little ad thing that you see there. And that speaks to a lot of work on SEO, a lot of work on understanding how can we create a web page that ranks well no matter where you are. These companies do marketing so well, and that's huge because that brings in clients like crazy. So, a major pro of working for one of these companies is you get to take advantage of that marketing. When you read reviews online, people basically say they will give you as many clients as you desire, if not more. Another awesome benefit is that you get access to a bunch of clients that you wouldn't otherwise get through a brick and mortar service, because people who are outside of that 15 to 30 minute range around your practice actually get to see you because they see you through a computer. It's incredibly flexible and simple. And that's the third benefit. It's incredibly flexible to work for a company like this because you kind of get to choose when you work and how much you work, and sort of you get to choose how many people you see. I realize I paint this as a very good thing, because there are a lot of benefits to this type of practice. But there also are a lot of cons. If you do just a brief Google search of reviews of working for companies like Betterhelp or Talkspace, you'll see that they don't have really outstanding reviews from the people who work for them. And one of the primary ways that they have terrible, terrible reviews, I know I keep coming back to money, but it's money. A very brief search will tell you that for counselors who work for these companies, in general, they get paid like $15 for every 30 minutes, which would equal $30 per an hour, which is not that little money. However, and this is a big however, they're 1099 contracted employees, which means they're not getting benefits, they're not getting anything like that. So once they take that money, then that gets broken up between they have to pay their taxes, they have to pay all the other benefits, and it really works out to not be very much money, actually. That's just a little discouraging sometimes. Another negative that you'll see when you read the reviews of these companies is that it sounds like there's very little effort on the part of the company to actually take care of the counselor. In a lot of these reviews, counselors talk about reaching out to the company to try and talk about, is there a way we could do things better? And by and large, all the reviews that I've seen say, my concerns were never really heard. And that brings up the final major negative that I see in these companies. It seems like the primary focus of large companies like this is not on serving clients, it's not on supporting counselors, it's on making money. And that's kind of a scary thing to think about because, again, in order for counselors to provide good services, they need to be well taken care of. I think that's important. So, just like the other two types of places to work for, online practices like Betterhelp, Talkspace, they have their advantages. You get a ton of clients, there's really good marketing, and it's very flexible. But it comes at the cost of, well, not really paying well, and not really being supported as a counselor. And I think it's true of all three of these types of organizations. There are some serious advantages and disadvantages to each. None of them is perfect. And I think if you're a counselor who's beginning to look for a job, you're entering the field, or you're even in the field already, it's important to think about what are the pros and cons of each of the types of places I could work, and how do I make my decision about where I want to work. And I think that it's through having conversations like this, through exploring this, that we can come up with innovative ways that we can support not only the clients better, but also counselors. And I would love for you to be part of this conversation as well. And you can do that through putting your comments in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? What have been your experiences? And then also, I would love it if you subscribe to this channel down below. And on that note, it is in fact time to end. So I will see you next time. Bye.